As a huge fan of Farscape, anything with Claudia Black is at least going to get my attention. Is her strength as a performer enough to carry Deus, the Dark Sphere? Stick around and I'll share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Deus, the Dark Sphere. The synopsis on IMDb reads, a mysterious black sphere is discovered in the orbit of Mars. The Achilles is sent to investigate. After the bedraggled six-person crew wake from 8 months hibernation, the sphere is transmitting a single word in every Earth language ever known. Deus. All right, so what is this animal? Well, I would describe it as a mystery and suspense sci-fi movie. It initially looks like it might be giving off some vibes of Event Horizon, which maybe it did take a little bit of inspiration from, but it's not a horror movie. It's not that kind of thing. There is at least one kind of horror type moment that made me think, oh, is this where we're going? But then, after that I was like, oh no, okay, it's just mostly mystery, suspense, science fiction, has a very serious tone, but it doesn't focus in on character as much as I'd like, and I think that would actually help it more, above and beyond that just being my preference. They're already kind of making Claudia Black's character someone that we're meant to really sympathize with, that we're meant to be emotionally invested in, because at the very beginning of the story, we learn that she's lost her mother and her daughter very tragically. And so right from the get-go, the script just, really wants us to be emotionally sympathetic toward her. And I wish they would have followed through with just developing that a little bit more, developing our emotions for her in the script itself. There are just kind of unearned, I think, emotional beats toward the end of this story that I'm like, oh, she's reacting to this situation like she really has developed a relationship with this character. And I don't remember any of that. I mean, I know they chatted a little bit longer than she did with other characters, but I mean, I didn't sense like this real connection. There are a couple of antagonists that I'm like, why are you being the way that you are being? And I mean, technically you could come up with reasons for, all these things. You can make it work in your mind, I think, but if they would have spent just 5 to 10 more minutes more on developing these different characters, their personality traits, their connections with each other, I think I would have found it so much more engaging, and I think I would have invested more emotionally myself. There's also what I think is an unjustified character shift on the part of one character from atheism. This character says, I don't believe in God, to later on saying to someone, I'll see you on the other side, and there's that's a pretty non-committal remark, but there's more than one of those by this character at the end that imply, oh, I think they've come to a place of at least believing in an afterlife, even if they don't believe in God. So, but it just felt like that should have been some kind of an arc that was fed into, and it's just something that kind of happens. There's also one character that has just kind of some strange physical behavior on a medical bed. I'm just like, are they doing some experimental acting right now? This is a little bit weird, and I'm not sure if I should attribute that to the performer or to the script and the direction that they were given. I mean, it was just a little bit, just slightly odd. Maybe it won't strike anybody else that way. I did find the revelation of who or what Deus is interesting. And somewhat original, although not like utterly shocking, like, wow, I can't believe they went there. It's just like, oh, that's an interesting concept to go with, As far as the performers go, Claudia Black was very strong throughout. And I mean, I've known since her Farscape days that she's a very capable actress with great emotional access, and to the point where in a couple scenes of like, there has got to be some stuff on the cutting room floor that that would establish the emotions that she's having right now to the degree that she's having them. It's like the performance was great, but I was like, I don't understand why exactly you're feeling quite as much as you're feeling right now. I don't feel like the script justifies it. So, but yes, a really, really engaging performer again here. I thought the rest of the cast was fine, but not very interesting. And I wonder if maybe I would have appreciated their performances more if the script had fleshed them out, which again, maybe it did, and those scenes were cut. I don't know. Okay, as far as like the stunts and visuals go, sometimes we come to sci-fi maybe primarily for the visual effects. I don't think you want to come to this for that. I would say the visual effects quality is like streaming TV series quality, not top tier, and definitely not theatrical quality. It reminded me of the Battlestar Galactica series from the early to mid 2000s, not in, comparing this quality to that if you were to watch both back to back, but like what that show was in visual quality compared to theatrical releases of the time, I feel like this movie is compared to big sci-fi theatrical releases now. So I mean, it's better than what the CW is going to put out, but it's not theatrical or top tier streaming quality. You can take that for however you want to interpret that. Let's see here. Yeah, there was cool effects shots of the dark sphere, the ship. I think those were the strongest visual effects. I do wish the lighting or maybe the picture in post-production had been more high contrast. It sometimes had that overly lit look of TV from the early mid 2000s. I'm thinking of like the Stargate TV series or even Star Trek. I guess that's a little bit more 90s, but anyway, no real complaints visually speaking. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, they briefly touch on overpopulation of the Earth as a chief problem that the world has to deal with. And so maybe that's, I don't know that they were kind of preaching a message of like a solution for that. Maybe they were just pulling from thoughts that we're having these days of like looking at population numbers and wondering how it's all going to play out, There's social media plays a significant role in this one, as these explorers in space constantly have cameras all over the ship that are recording them to later be shown to the public. And I think before they lose communication with Earth, it was presumably all being shown live. I'm not exactly sure, but there's this sense of always being on for the public, which I think parallels in some ways our social media experience today, depending on how engaged we are with social media. We're constantly reporting, we're constantly sharing our lives, assuming that other people are interested in some way, But I think, obviously the big theme here is based on the title, Deus, God. What is this thing? Is this thing God? And I'm not going to, explore that really. I'm going to let you watch the movie and see the reveal for yourself. But I mean, they are specifically pulling from Christian theology. There's references to a New Jerusalem. There's the idea of humanity needing to make a choice for what Deus is offering, to receive salvation basically from Deus and peace and a reunion with lost loved ones, or the alternative is to not choose Deus and to perish as the result of Deus's destructive power, and so there are definitely some striking parallels to God and what we see in the book of Revelation and what's being prophesied there. So there's also Deus is referred to as the Alpha and Omega of all existence. So the terminology and some of these ideas, they're certainly pulling more from Christianity than any other source. I don't think that this movie lands in a purely naturalistic / atheistic place. I mean, the classic thing that a movie like this or a show is going to do with this concept, Star Trek did this all the time, is something claims to be God, appears to be God, and then there's a natural explanation and stuff like that. And so it seems like firmly the heroes that we're rooting for are in the camp of naturalists who are like, well, there must be a natural explanation, and aha, they saved the poor ignorant villagers of this backwater planet from believing in this fake God, naturalists to the rescue, and I'm not left with that feeling after this movie, definitely. In fact, there's a chief villain that's sort of targeting people who believe in God, possibly specifically those who believe in the God of Christian teaching. So if anything, Christians would be viewed maybe sympathetically, although perhaps not especially intelligently in this movie. So it's interesting to kind of, wonder at the end. I wonder if the person who wrote this, the writer and director are the same person, if they are a theist in any way. I don't know. All right, so I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip this one for now. It's not worth $5 to stream on its own as video on demand. But if and when it comes to a streaming service that you are watching something else on and you already have a subscription to for that month, or maybe it comes to Redbox where you can get it for basically like $2 or $3, then it's worth your time on a night when you want some space sci-fi to watch with an interesting kind of premise and a mystery to see, be revealed at some point. When nothing else is really calling out to you that night. That's when you watch this one. It's rated 18 plus, according to Amazon Prime, I presume for mostly language and a little bit of violence. And those are all my thoughts for now on Deus, the Dark Sphere. As always, I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spirit Productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all Christian Geek Central content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your church or home, or like me, you could do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can use tabletop games of any kind. What you do to raise funds is really entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself, from other team members, and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more info about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, just follow the invite link below, make an account at tiltify.com. Then from your dashboard, create a new individual campaign using St. Jude Play Live 2022 as your cause, and check Support an Existing Campaign. Type CGC in the campaign search field and select CGC Game Save 22. To help your donors, I recommend including CGC Game Save 22 in the name of your individual campaign as well. After that, it's a short, simple process to finish up, and you'll be an official member of the Game Save 22 team. After that, as team leader, beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October will be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 5th. Although you are welcome to continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks for listening.